has bitten the bullet finally after meeting with Prime Minister Modi. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley today announced a ₹1.50 cut in excise duty on petrol and diesel, even as oil marketing companies have been told to cut prices by ₹1 per litre. Well, not just that, the centre has asked the state government to cut fuel prices in an equal measure. Effectively, the move will mean that petrol and diesel prices will come down by ₹5 per litre if states play ball. BJP-ruled states like Maharashtra and Gujarat have already announced reciprocal price cuts, although it's not clear if opposition-ruled states will join the centre's efforts to cool the fuel fury. Now, the flood-hit Kerala has already ruled out any tinkering with VAT, given its precarious financial position. A political slugfest has begun, with the Congress terming it as a political stunt. Former Finance Minister P Chidambaram has said that the Modi government may have finally woken up to the miseries of the common man and so has indulged in mere tokenism. Fuel politics ahead of the 2019 general election is a topic of discussion this evening on the India development debate. And for that, we've got 4 special guests joining in. BJP spokesperson Taneia is with us. So is Shama Mohammed. She's a spokesperson for the Congress. The former Petroleum Secretary, Mr. Saurabh Chandra, joins in. And ET Now's consulting editor, Maithili Bhusnurmat, is here with us as well. All 4 of you, good evening and thank you so much for sparing the time. Mr. Taneia, let me begin by asking you, finally, you've yielded to public pressure. Don't you think, though, that it's coming a little too late and perhaps too little? After all, even after the reduction, petrol is going to be selling close to $87 in Mumbai.
Well, it depends, I mean, how you want to look at it, but I think that it's very timely, and you just look around and ask the consumers, they are very happy with the government decision, because at the, at the end of the day, they're going to get the benefit of at least ₹5 per litre. And at the same time, prices of other essential commodities like vegetables and tomatoes and potatoes are very much under control. So their overall economics, the household economics is in very good shape. So they're happy with the government decision. But at the same time, with this decision, the government has also made it clear, explain everything, as Finance Minister explained very well, that, companies got to be more efficient. Central government has done what the central government has done. At the same time, states also need to own up the responsibility, because they are at the end. We have all seen that, because they go by their VAT is collected on ad valorem basis. So they have been also a kind of quote unquote the beneficiary. So now in a way, there is an architecture now taking shape, an informal architecture, and there is more clarity and transparency. One hopes that opposition will not be able to play much politics on it, because for instance, today with this kind of change and the announcement by the central government and other states coming forward, we are still waiting for the news to come from Punjab. Punjab is still not done anything. People are still paying ₹90 for 1 litre of petrol. So Congress has no moral right now to come and play politics in television studios. Karnataka is saying we are not going to do it. We are not going to do anything. So now the point is that
people are
going to ask them
of the Congress to respond to that. Shama, how do you respond to that? On one hand, you've been fighting for a price cut. When it's happened, you're calling it mere tokenism. Are you just upset that the BJP has taken a clear political lead with the price cut ahead of the election?
I just want to ask you, as a common citizen of this country, you have a price cut of ₹2 when the excise duty from 2014 onwards has gone up 12 times. I mean, what was the need for the excise duty, which for petrol was ₹9 per litre, went up to 18, and for diesel was 3.5 per litre, went up to 15. I mean, look where it went up. And that time, let's not forget, in 2015, the petrol prices were $35 a barrel. So it just kept going up for no reason. Now they do it, they cut ₹2 exactly last year on this time, when we had the Gujarat elections coming, when we had the Himachal elections coming, and we had the Meghalaya elections coming. If you look at your record, exactly at this period, they cut it by ₹2. So now, of course, this is not because they're upset about the people of this country, they're worried about the people. It's because the elections are around the corner. There is Rajasthan happening, there's Madhya Pradesh happening. So they're worried. That's the only reason. Otherwise, why was it going up continuously for such a long time? And they did not do anything about it. They waited till the elections are getting near, and they reduce, and that too by ₹2. What is the point of reducing it by ₹2 when it has been increased by so much? And also, let me take out one very important point. When we were in power in 2014, when we were leaving, petrol price was $107 a barrel in the world, and we had it at 71 rupees and diesel at 55. So if we could do it at that, and now right now it is $86 a barrel. But look at the petrol prices, it's gone above 90. In Mumbai, it's 88 is the diesel. So what is the reason why they do not want to cut the excise duty? And they do not answer one question: what happened to the 12 lakh crore which they collected as excise duty from 2014 onwards? Where is that money? We want the white paper. They keep saying infrastructure.
Well, Shama, I promise you in the course of this discussion, I'm going to put that question forward to Mr. Taneja, but I want to just give, all our panelists a chance with their opening comments. Mr. Chandra, let me come to you. One of the other issues that's being criticized is that by prodding oil companies to absorb that 1 rupee, the government is going back on deregulation. And, those fears were very visible on the street today. Within 10 minutes of the finance minister announcing this, you saw a price damage to the tune of some 20% in companies like HPCL, BPCL, $4 billion of investor wealth wiped out. Would you say that was a knee-jerk reaction?
To start with, I'll make a disclaimer.
Sure.
That the diesel was deregulated when I was in harness, and therefore I may be a little biased. Now, my take on the subject is that this is a shift in the pricing policy that the OMCs had used to determine the diesel and petrol prices. It was based on trade parity price, which gave them a cushion of about a rupee or so per litre. Now, what has effectively been done is to do away with this protection that the Indian refineries enjoyed. So it's too early to say what will happen next. Probably we'll have to wait and see whether the old regime which prevailed between 2004 and 2014 of under recoveries, where the diesel under recoveries were more than 4 lakh crores. They went up to as high as 92,000 crore in 2012-13. And that was shared between the government, the oil marketing companies and the upstream companies. So I think we'll have to give it a little time, see what happens next. Because of the 4 elements that go into the pump pricing, 2 are more or less out of our control at the moment. One is the international price of petrol and diesel. The second is the currency rate, which again determined by the international prices. The other 2 factors are within the control of the governments: VAT with the state government, excise with the central government. And VAT, because it's a cascading duty, levied on excise and dealer's margin and ad valorem, perhaps there is more scope for a cut there.
Maitree, how do you look at it? Is it not a classic case of good politics over bad economics?
Well, Tanya, I'm going to make myself very unpopular with your viewers. And before they have them baying for my blood, I must say that however trite it sounds, there is no free lunch. That is the bottom line. And when we are dependent, almost 80% of our oil is supplied through imported oil, and the oil prices have gone up internationally, and the rupee has depreciated against the dollar, and we have to pay for our oil imports in terms of dollars. There is but no alternative, other things remaining the same, except to pass on the higher price to the consumers. The only way you can cushion that shock is if the government, whether it is centre or the states, cuts their taxes. Now, yes, they can do that, and that is what they have done, but there is a cost to be paid for that, because when the centre cuts its taxes, what does it mean? It has to either cut back on its expenditure, or it has to increase its borrowing and exceed the fiscal deficit target. Okay, now both these, cutting back your expenditure or increasing your fiscal deficit, increasing your borrowings, has a cost, and that cost is borne by the citizens of the country as large. And as for the Congress's claim that they they did not pass on the price hike. I'm sorry. What happened was the fiscal deficit ballooned, and then we saw the whole cascading effect of higher inflation, higher CAD, slowing down our growth. So the bottom line really is that there is no getting away that when you import as much as we do of our oil, and when oil prices rise, the only way you can cushion consumers from shock is by somebody else picking up the tab. And when the government does this, it ends up in everybody, including the poorest of the poor, picking up the tab. Whereas if you allowed oil prices to rise, it is the relatively better off who pick up the tab. So to my mind, this is very unfortunate. It is in completely bad politics and winning over good economics. But maybe I can say that because I don't have to face elections. So this is, you have to have some sympathy for the government, because when you have to face elections in a poor democracy like ours, every government perhaps succumbs to the temptation.
Right. Mr. Taneja, it's only fair that I ask you this question because, you know, you're somebody who understands politics just as well as you perhaps do the oil dynamics. Should we presume that deregulation is a myth? Because that's what seems to have been demonstrated today. The fear for investors is that the APM, the administered price mechanism, is sort of creeping back through the back door.
The answer is big no. Oh no, absolutely no.
Okay.
The government is not going back on reforms. In fact, we want to push ahead with further reforms because I know it. Petroleum and natural gas sector need further reforms and we stay committed to it. Government is not going back on deregulation. Absolute answer is big no. So people just got it wrong. Yes, I watched on television. Even people were, you know, questioning the, you know, ONGC. ONGC is not in the picture at all. This thing is concerned. At the same time, you see what the government has done is very clear. We asked these companies were asked, can you do something? They must have done, you know, some work on their numbers, and they said they can, and they came forward, and that's why Rupee 1 was announced by the finance minister. But that's a decision taken by these companies. We can look at the health of these companies today, compare that with 2014. 2014, the fact is that all these companies, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil in particular, they were all in ICU. Each one of them were ICU. Now we nursed them, we brought them out, and they are in great shape today. And you know it, and the markets know it. That's why, because that's our commitment to these companies. We actually want to give them even more autonomy so that they can bring oil and better prices, refine it at better prices, and serve the consumer. That's our commitment to investors both at home, the consumers at home, and investors who are coming and investing, you know, from overseas. That's the commitment. So please have absolutely no doubts on that as far as reforms and deregulation concerned. Our commitment is to that. And if you look at the announcement today, we have done the numbers very well. And the finance minister himself said the burden in terms of, you know, loss and excise is going to be in the region of only 10,000. And looking at the picture in terms of, you know, direct tax collection, we are very comfortable that we can manage it. So we have done everything. We have looked both north, south, east, west, and then we have come up with it. So those who think that we are going back on deregulation and reform, they're getting it absolutely wrong. There is no such thing. In fact, we will push ahead with reform and we will modernize the petroleum sector even better and make it absolutely world class.
Well, okay, Shama, let me bring you in. And, you know, I know that, you know, you and your parties don't sort of buy their argument. It doesn't cut any ice with you. You've been calling it the comeback of the APM mechanism. But it's not like, you know, things were any different under the UPA. So many would say that, you know, the Congress party doesn't have a moral right to be criticizing the government on this.
First and foremost, I just want to remind Mr. Taneja that petroleum industry was deregulated by the Congress party and the UPA, not by them. So he keeps saying that, you know, we want to save it and we want to do this. So the lies, he should stop. Number two, you asked me about another question which I forgot to answer, was about Karnataka. After the Bandh, after the Bharat Bandh, Karnataka had reduced by 2 rupees, which you have not even noticed, you know, immediately after the Bharat Bandh. And number three, what I really want to ask Mr. Taneja is that why do you export? There was an RTI question put across, and the answer is they are exporting oil and petroleum products to foreign countries. Petrol is at 35 rupees per litre and 37 rupees per litre is diesel. They are exporting it to England, Australia, America, Malaysia, Israel. So why is this happening when they are selling petrol and diesel to the common man at such a high price? What is it they have against their countrymen? And they say that what we did, of course, look at the excise duty. Didn't we subsidize and hold the excise duty? We charged only, as I said, 3 rupees per litre for diesel and 9 rupees per litre for petrol. So that is one thing which we did. And when the price was 107, and let's not forget, when the world economic crisis happened in 2007 to 2008, the petrol price was $150 a barrel. Did it go to 90 then? Let me ask you that. No, because we took care we subsidize. Another very important thing is the excise duty.
Right.
Another thing I want to ask Mr. Taneja is, why not bring it in the ambit of the GST?
Sure,
why are they not getting it in the GST? We want it, and they have more than 20 states under them, which they can easily get it into the GST. And another very important point, if he talks about VAT, if you look at Chhattisgarh, petrol 26.8% and diesel 25%. Gujarat 25%. Diesel 25%. Maharashtra 39% is the value added tax on petrol and 24%. Madhya Pradesh 35% for petrol. Jharkhand 25%. So they have the highest VAT, all their states. They are in power right now. They have many states under them. They can easily put it on the ambit of GST. Why not? They are not ready to cut the excise duty. They are not ready to put it under GST. They do not tell us that why did they collect 11 lakh or 12 lakh crores when the petrol price was $35 to $40 a barrel.
Let's allow Mr. Taneja to respond to
Why
that.
didn't you pass it on to the common man?
Mr. Taneja, please do respond to that. You know, and I just want to add the other criticism
should tell us
that's
why
coming.
It's been exported. Why has he been exporting oil to foreign countries?
Mr. Taneja, please do respond
why
to
are the oil
some of those questions that Shama has put forth. The other criticism that's coming your government's way is that you've increased...
You give me a chance to reply.
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, we export petroleum, India exports petroleum product, let me correct my friend from the Congress party, not 30 countries, 110 countries. 110 countries. And it all started happening when Congress was in power.
I didn't say 30 countries.
Government companies are not exporting petrol or diesel or oil. You see, listen. Why are you? Let's have a civilized debate. All debates are not tu meme. This is a civilized channel. It's a serious channel.
Go ahead.
Please
yes.
respect it.
Yeah.
Allow me to finish. You see, so India is exporting, and this you see, and when we say we import 85% oil, it includes the oil where we import crude, actually refine it, add value, and export it. There's oil, petroleum products are the second biggest item of exports of India. Second. And it's a remarkable thing. India earns billions of dollars by refining and adding value and exporting. And that was done by the Congress party, and they did a great job. I salute them and I congratulate them. It's a shame Congress is questioning the decisions taken by P.V. Narasimha Rao government and Dr. Manmohan Singh. They have no respect for them. Otherwise, they would not be questioning them.
Mr. Taneja and Shama, I think we
I
have to also give
Taneja
time to others on the
question.
panel.
You see,
Mr. Saurabh Chandra, no, I'm sorry. I want to now ask Mr. Chandra a question. Mr. Chandra, the other worry is that, once Iran is completely cut off from the market, the OPEC doesn't look like it's in a mood to raise output. We're staring at $100 a barrel for oil. Now, who's to say that the government won't expect oil marketing companies then to also share the burden?
There is very little scope for the oil marketing companies to share any additional burden. Otherwise, they would go into losses. There was a bit of protection available because of what is called the trade parity price, which gives 80% weightage to the import price and 20% to the export price. Now, the difference between the import and the export price is maybe between a rupee and 2 rupees. So what you get is a refinery transfer price. What really gets added on to it are excise, dealer's margin, their marketing margin of the companies, and VAT. That is what adds up to this big number that we pay at the petrol pumps. So my guess is there are no free lunches. Oil prices are uncertain. There's uncertainty. Speculators will have a field day. For example, in 2008, it went up to $150. In December, it was down to $32. So this is a very difficult thing to predict. What we can manage is perhaps do something for the exchange rate, not allow it to go to maybe 75, 80, do whatever we can. Import management can be done in the short run, and also look at the taxation. But then policy making is an interplay of forces. On one side, you have fiscal prudence, you have carbon tax exponents. On the other side, you have the consumer. So somewhere a balance will have to be struck. And every government takes these decisions. The UPA government decided to have under recoveries. As I mentioned earlier, it went up to 92,000 crore in 2012-13. So finally, policy making is the domain of the government, and they take a decision. Only future says what is right and what is wrong.
Maitli, let's just talk about the fiscal implications of this move as well. You know, the finance minister in his press conference today pretty much downplayed, the implications of this excise cut. He said that it's going to cost the centre something like 10,500 crore rupees, which is just 0.05% of the fiscal. Do you see any hurdles there? Maybe some cutback in capital expenditure towards the end of the year?
Well, as I said, Taneia, there is really no option that if you are going to cut the price to the end consumer, somebody has to take the hit. So it has to be the fisc, and the finance minister would necessarily have to say that. He could not possibly have said anything else, given the fact that the government has made such almost a fetish, I would say, of its determination to stick to the 3.3%. And remember, today this is the number that he has given when oil is $86 a barrel. Now we have no idea where the dollar is going to be, the rupee exchange rate. We have no idea where oil prices are going to be. And as Mr. Saurav Chandra said, we have really no control over oil prices, and once the Iran sanctions kick in, chances are that the prices will go up even higher. We could, as he said, perhaps try to do something about exchange rate, but that is also something that is largely out of our control, because this is primarily because of the dollar strengthening. So when you have these two situations, the exchange rate largely under your control, oil prices almost entirely out of your control, or not almost entirely out of your control is the correct position, then there is just no way you can do it but to either pass on the burden to the consumers directly, allow the pass through as you would allow in the case of prices of, say, things like gold, for instance, or if you want to subsidize the impact on the consumer to some effect, then the fiscal has to take the hit. So today the FM is saying that because he cannot say anything else. As the former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh said, politics is the art of the possible. So this is what the finance minister is doing. He is trying to play the art of the possible. And I don't agree with Mr. Taneja when he says that this is not going back on deregulation. I'm sorry, but it is, Mr. Taneja. You had no option perhaps, and you've tried to hold on to your nerve as long as you could. But ultimately, when you have elections staring you in the face and you have fuel prices going up like this, you do what every government does. I just hope you don't go down the Congress way and try and restrain yourself from going further down the same path.
Well, Maitli, you actually just led me to my, last question. I have time for just one more. And after all, it is all about politics, isn't it? I mean, the optics didn't look good, and so we're finally seeing this relief. Politically, how do you see this move? Do you think it's going to benefit the ruling dispensation, or will we need to see sharper cuts for them to really be able to win the battle, at least of optics?
Sorry, to add the question the rest to me. Well, I don't know, but one thing is definitely sure, that inflation hits the public very hard, and elections have been won and lost on elections. So on inflation. So to the extent that the government is trying to hold oil prices and the impact on the end consumer, it could make a difference to inflation. And as Mr. Taneja said, one thing that is good is that other prices, particularly food prices, are relatively low. So you could perhaps allow oil prices to go up somewhat and contain the bad impact on terms of going back on deregulation. So hopefully this will keep inflation under check, but it's a very tough call, Taneia. And as I said, I can pontificate, but I don't have to place elections. It's very, very tough to be in the government's shoes.
Okay, with that then, we'll wrap it up on this edition of the India Development Debate. Maithili Bhusnurmad, Saurabh Chandra, Narendra Taneja and Shama Mohammed. Thank you so much for joining in this evening. We're going to slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere. Up ahead, we're going to discuss the IL&FS mess and what the board's roadmap to reboot the debt-ridden infra company is.